Welcome back, automotive enthusiasts. We've got a familiar face in the workshop today, our friend and his trusty 2018 Honda Fit. Now, you might be wondering, why does a Honda Fit keep coming back for clutches? Well, we suspect it might have something to do with our friend's secret life of racing, his 1.6-liter Fit against the wind. In this episode, we'll dive into the world of clutch replacements, explore the possible reasons behind this frequent visitor, and, of course, share a laugh or two along the way. So grab your toolbox, fasten your seat belts, and let's find out what's been driving this Fit to the limit. Now here, I'm struggling to take the airbox out because of this one bolt I missed. I try to take the least amount of components apart. Sometimes it benefits me, sometimes it bites me in the you-know-where. But here we took the whole airbox out as a whole with filter and ducts. Once that's out of the way, as you can see, there's lots of room to party. So welcome to the transmission battleground, where we're turning our attention to everything that's tethered to that elusive gearbox. That means wrangling those stubborn shifter cables, giving the clutch slave a ticket to freedom, and unleashing our inner electrician as we disconnect all those sensors. And of course, there's a showdown brewing with the bell housing. These are the mighty bolts that hold the transmission and engine in a tight embrace. So, prepare for some unbolt action. The plot thickens. I'm not just flexing my wrenching muscles here, I'm also strategically loosening the transmission mount bolts. Why, you ask? Well, it's all about making the great transmission escape smoother once our trusty vehicle is up in the air. So stick around for this thrilling episode of mechanical maneuver. Okay, folks, we're up in the air, and it's time to assess the situation. Here's a little nugget of wisdom I'll share. Sometimes, it's not about being right the first time. It's about the adventure of learning from your mistakes. So first on our hit list is that bottom motor mount. But here's where the hilarity kicks in. I decided to tackle it right away, and boy, did I get a surprise. It turns out the whole engine and transmission decided to join the swing dance party. I even gave the old pry bar a try, thinking I could charm it into submission. But nope, that didn't cut it. That's when I brought in the dead man, my unsung hero in this tale. With a trusty support system in place, we managed to wrangle the engine and transmission back into line. As we've got our engine and transmission safely supported, it's time to proceed. But here's a crucial tip. We're not attempting to remove all the bell housing bolts at once. Instead, with the majority of the remaining bell housing bolts coming off, we're making methodical progress. It's all part of the game plan, and it ensures a smoother operation. Then there's the not-so-glamorous part, tackling the axle shield. It's a bit of a challenge, to put it mildly, but we're up for it, and we'll take you through the process step by step. I'm still in the zone, working on those bell housing bolts. I've got my trusty long extension to reach those sneaky ones, and I'm showing them who's boss by giving them a good loosening. Easy peasy, right? But here's where the comedy kicks in. Just as I'm about to bid farewell to the last bolt, I notice the transmission already eyeing the exit. It seems to be getting separation anxiety, and we're not ready for that grand goodbye just yet. So, it's a classic hold your horses moment, folks. We're putting that last bolt right back where it belongs. We're all about suspense and drama, but we'll save the separation for later on. Our mission, to free the axle with as little disassembly drama as possible. First, we're playing the knuckle to strut bolt tug of war. Next, we're saying hasta la vista to the ABS sensor and axle nut. They've had their moment in the spotlight. You can fish out the axle from the knuckle without disrobing the caliper. But hold on, don't put too much pressure on that caliper hose. It's camera shy. We're prying the axle outwards from the transmission. It's like the suspension tango. You've got to lead, and the axle will follow. Now it's time to bring in the big guns, the transmission jack. We're about to secure that transmission in style. Safety first, folks. With our trusty transmission jack in place, we're ready for the next phase of our transmission adventure. Those transmission mount bolts we cracked loose in the beginning. Well, it's their time to shine. We're going to finish the job by taking them goodbye to the last bell housing bolt. With a bit of pry bar prowess, we'll gracefully unmarry the transmission from the engine. I know some of you have been wondering about the other side of the axle. As I've mentioned before, we're all about keeping things simple and taking as little apart as possible. So, we're prying the axle off the transmission side and leaving it snugly in place. Now here's the catch. This means we have to be extra careful with the axle seal. It's a bit of a delicate operation, and the last thing we want is a torn seal. Let me be straight with you. If you're not confident in your axle pulling prowess, it might be best to leave this part to the pros. Trust me, you don't want to end up needing a new transmission axle seal. That's not on anyone's wish list. Cue the drama, folks. After an epic amount of coaxing, tugging, and determined prying, bada bim bada boom. The transmission is finally making its grand exit. Now we're about to unveil the mystery and get up close with the clutch and pressure plate. Stay tuned for the big reveal. And the transmission is out, and we're on the brink of clutch greatness. But here's the fun part. I may have executed an unintentional clutch drop with the clutch disc. Good thing we are changing it. Now, as we turn our attention to the flywheel, you won't believe the dance floor it's been on. The burn marks tell a story of a clutch that knows how to salsa. Because, let's just say this flywheel and pressure plate have more burn marks than a questionable cooking experiment. It's like they've been to the dance of too many burnouts. Who knew our clutch components had such a wild nightlife? And there it is, folks. The flywheel is gleaming like it's auditioning for a car show runway. It's so shiny. I swear it's practicing its mirror, mirror on the wall routine. Time for a little pit stop in our clutch overhaul. We're swapping out the pilot bearing. It's like giving our car a silent but supportive co-worker. It's clutch makeover time. We're about to give the throwout bearing a spa day it won't forget. It's like the clutch is getting its own makeover montage. A little cleaning, a bit of lubing, and a brand new throwout bearing. Get ready for the clutch's dazzling transformation. Give the new flywheel a brake-clean bath it would drown on along with the pressure plate. Okay, folks, it's flywheel installation time. But here's the golden rule. When you're torquing those bolts, do it like you're channeling your inner superhero. Oh, and here's a piece of wisdom from the school of learning the hard way. Don't do what I did and try to play the hero by holding the flywheel with a pry bar. Instead, call upon the closest buddy available to lend a helping hand. Remember, even heroes need sidekicks. Time for a little clutch magic. We're bringing in the aligning tool to slide in the clutch disc and pressure plate like they're reuniting with their long-lost family. It's a perfect match. And the key to success here is aligning the dowels in the flywheel with the right holes in the pressure plate. And when it comes to tightening up those bolts, think of it as a synchronized dance. We're doing it in a cross pattern, keeping things balanced and even, like a well-choreographed routine. Plus, don't forget the torque. We're making sure everything's locked in with precision. Now it's time to hoist that transmission back up and reunite it with the engine. But hold on to your hats. because this part is like a thrilling puzzle. You've got to align it perfectly with the engine while making sure the splines of the clutch slide smoothly into the transmission shaft, and at the same time, clear and align the transmission mount. It's like threading a needle while riding a unicycle, challenging but oh so satisfying. And here's where the plot thickens. If you were feeling a little brave and left the passenger axle in place just like I did, it's a double challenge. You've got to ensure the axle slides in without causing any tears to the axle seal. It's a delicate dance of coordination, but fear not. We've got a trick up our sleeves. If needed, you might have to give the engine a little spin to encourage those splines to slide perfectly into the transmission shaft. As soon as that transmission is snugly flush with the engine, it's time for some bolt-astic action. We're running a few bell housing bolts and giving them a good tightening. It's like a friendly handshake to welcome the transmission back home. And that's not all. We're also running some transmission mount bolts to free that trusty transmission jack. It's like giving our jack a standing ovation and saying, "You've done your part, my friend." We've reached the reassembly spectacular, folks. With the transmission mostly in its happy place, we're about to put the band back together. First up, the reunion of the bell housing bolts and transmission mount. It's like getting the gang back together for the big show. But the fun doesn't stop there. We're reconnecting all the electrical connectors, giving them a warm welcome home. Then it's time for the clutch slave cylinder and shifter cables to join the party. It's like assembling the ultimate automotive orchestra, and we're the conductors. Get ready for the symphony of reassembly. Toot-toot-roo-roo. Let's take the elevator back down to the automotive underworld, where we've got some finishing touches of awesomeness in store. First up, we're piecing together the bottom transmission mount and the flywheel access cover. It's like the final strokes on a masterpiece. But that's not the end of our journey. It's time for the epic axle slide in. With surgical precision, we're sliding the axle back into its groove, making sure everything clicks into place. But the saga doesn't stop here. We're gearing up for the suspension revival, adding a touch of never sees to those axle splines for some extra magic. It's like giving our car's suspension a VIP treatment. They'll thank us later. And then, like threading a needle in a grand tapestry, we're reuniting the knuckle with the strut, ensuring the perfect fit. Plus, the axle shield reclaims its rightful place, like the final note in a beautiful melody. It's the missing piece that makes our automotive composition whole, ready to take center stage. And now we're stepping into the realm of torque, my friends. It's time to give those axles and wheels the precision treatment they deserve. And now for the last dance. Let's ensure the transmission fluid is topped off. It's like the icing on the cake, the final flourish that ensures our automotive performance is nothing less than perfection. Get ready to hit the road with confidence, knowing that every detail has been meticulously taken care of. Before we close the curtains, I want to extend a heartfelt thank you to all of you for tuning in to yet another thrilling episode with AS Insight. Your support, enthusiasm, and passion for all things automotive keep us revved up and ready to dive into new adventures. Until next time, my fellow car enthusiasts, keep those engines running and the curiosity burning. Stay tuned for more exciting insights with Aya's Insight.